In the Dutch city of Rotterdam on June 25, 2025, NATO leaders gathered for what could be a turning point in the alliance's history. The proposal on the table was ambitious. Each member nation should aim to spend 5% of its gross domestic product on national security. But not every member is on board. Spain, for instance, has already distanced itself from the proposal, citing the burden it could place on its economy. So what exactly does this 5% target mean in practical terms, and why has NATO chosen this moment to push for such a steep increase in defense spending? The new 5% goal is not just one lump sum. It's divided into two distinct categories, each with its own purpose. The largest portion, 3.5% of GDP, is meant for traditional defense spending. The remaining 1.5% is earmarked for what NATO calls enabling capabilities. This includes infrastructure updates like improving roads, ports, and airfields to allow troops and supplies to move about quickly in case of a crisis. The urgency behind this new goal comes down to one word: Russia. Since its full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022, the alliance now believes that defending Europe and North America against a potential Russian assault requires a minimum of 3% of GDP in military spending. Russia's invasion of Ukraine changed the way NATO sees its role. When Russian forces crossed the border in February 2022, many Western governments assumed Kyiv would fall within days. Embassies were evacuated and military analysts predicted a swift Russian victory. But Ukraine didn't collapse. It fought back thanks in large part to massive military support from the United States and its NATO allies. This resistance denied Russia a quick win and pulled the West deeper into the conflict than what was anticipated. But Ukraine's relationship with NATO has always been complicated. Back in 2008, NATO stated that both Ukraine and Georgia would eventually become members, but it offered no timeline, no clear conditions, and no guarantees. At the 2023 summit in Vilnius, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky once again asked for a concrete path to membership. The answer was vague. Once again, NATO expressed support in principle but declined to offer a firm commitment. Countries like France and Germany opposed Ukraine's entry, worried it would provoke Russia. To understand NATO's role today, it helps to go back to how it all began. In the aftermath of World War II, Europe was a continent in ruins. Millions had died, most of them civilians. Entire economies had collapsed. The United States stepped in with the Marshall Plan, injecting billions into economic recovery. But leaders soon realized that economic aid wasn't enough. A lasting peace would require military cooperation too. And so, in 1949, 12 countries, including the US, the UK, Canada, and several Western European nations, came together to form the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. In the decades that followed, NATO expanded, both in size and purpose. From its original 12 members, the alliance now includes 32 countries. After the Cold War ended and the Soviet Union collapsed, NATO's growth accelerated. In 1999, Poland, Hungary, and Czech Republic joined. 5 years later, 7 more countries from Eastern Europe followed, including the Baltic states of Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, all of which share borders with Russia. This expansion was deeply unsettling for Moscow. In the late 1980s, some Western leaders had reportedly assured Soviet officials that NATO would not expand eastward. But by the late 2000s, that informal understanding had been abandoned. Russia viewed each new NATO member as another step in its strategic encirclement. Fast forward to today, NATO is once again facing a defining moment. The war in Ukraine has renewed the alliance's sense of purpose, but it has also exposed divisions, especially over funding, strategy, and long-term goals. Not every member agrees on how far to go or how quickly to spend it. Support for Ukraine remains strong, but the question of how to sustain it and at what cost is increasingly difficult to answer. NATO was created to prevent another world war. Today, it finds itself once again on high alert. Will member countries find common ground? Can they strike a balance between economic stability and military readiness? And more importantly, will the 5% goal make NATO stronger or simply widen the cracks within? Only time will tell. That's it for today's video. For more such videos, like and subscribe to The Hindu. Thanks for watching.